Hello, I'm John J. Thompson, and it seems you have fallen way down the True Tunes rabbit hole. Maybe you've come to the podcast recently and are just working your way back to our first few shows, or who knows, maybe someone sent you a direct link to one of these early outings. All I can say is welcome, thanks for stopping by. Bruce and I are glad you're here, but have some mercy on us, please. I'll be honest, when Bruce and I went back and listened to these early episodes, well, let's just say it clearly took us a handful of shows for us to get our feet under us. We knew what we wanted to do, but the way to get there took some tweaking. But the interviews are still valuable, and it's probably worthwhile to have these available as documents of our evolution, so we've trimmed them up a bit, tried to keep them timely, and inserted these little disclaimer introductions to each one. You might still hear a few dated references, some wonky edits, and some rough fades, so have some mercy on us as you dig these earliest episodes out of cold storage and enjoy. Thanks for listening. Oh, and if somehow this is your first exposure to our show, please check out any of our more recent episodes for a more accurate representation. Okay, Bruce, roll it.
Welcome to the True Tunes podcast. I'm Michael Gungor, also known as Weiwu or Vishnu Das. Pick your poison. There's a reason we put music to movies. There's a reason we sing happy birthday and have music at weddings and funerals and everything important, because we score these moments of our lives when we include music. It deepens our experience of it. It makes it come alive in a different way. Music helps the moment that you're experiencing glimmer and shine with magic and glory. That's the power of the musician, is you get to step out of that normal rat race of how can we sell somebody something so that something else happens some other time. It's like you actually get to invite people into their lives in a deeper way.
If you're at all familiar with Michael Gungor, you probably have some pretty strong opinions about him. You're either really excited about this episode or convinced that I've lost my mind, or maybe both. If you're not familiar with Michael Gungor, strap yourself in and get ready to discover one of the most interesting artists working today. Hello, I'm John J. Thompson, and welcome to the True Tunes podcast. I don't say this very often, and I'm not sure I fully believe in the concept, but I'm pretty sure Michael Gungor is some kind of genius. He just hums at a different frequency than most humans. He's one of the most ridiculous guitar players I've ever heard, and he has a compositional mind that seems to have taken on the floating spirits of Frank Zappa, Roger Waters, Kerry Livgren, Peter Gabriel, and Tom York. And yes, I know most of those guys are still using their spirits. I'm sure Michael will return them unscathed. And under his new moniker Weiwu, he has just released a brand new project that is, well, unlike anything I have ever heard. That's for sure. Gungor's first national moment was as the co-writer of the song Friend of God with gospel artist Israel Houghton. But there's a good chance most of you first got to know him through the amazing alternative worship music he made with his wife Lisa and a few friends in a band called Simply Gungor. Their song, Beautiful Things, really shook up the worship music world 10 years ago, with lyrics that dared to touch on ideas that were darker and anchored in the pain that plagues creation, but were expressive of a longing for renewal that was both personal and universal. That song introduced millions of people to an artist and his band who were exceptional and adventurous musicians, songwriters, and composers, true artists, who were committed to digging deep and telling the truth about what they found. Though certainly not the first alternative worship artists out there, they became vanguards for a new generation listening for sacred music they could respect artistically.
All this pain, I wonder if I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all. All this earth, could all that is lost ever be found? Could a garden come up from this ground at all? You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things, you make beautiful things out of us.
But then, just as Michael, a pastor's kid and lifelong Christian, was seeing doors open and his professional and creative dreams coming true, he experienced a profound crisis of faith. He has detailed that crisis with startling honesty, both on the Liturgist podcast he created and hosted with Science Mike McHargue, and in a book that came out last year called simply This, so I won't diminish it by summarizing it here. Today's conversation, for the most part, will be about the music, but a bit of context is probably called for. As with many postmodern Christians, Michael got to the point where he wasn't even sure there was a God. Instead of causing him to simply walk away, however, his profound doubt inspired him to disassemble the faith that had been handed to him, examine it carefully, follow every possible rabbit trail, and then see what was left. This process, commonly referred to as deconstruction in many post-evangelical circles, has become almost a central tenet of contemporary spiritual thought. It sounds like a dangerous concept to some, while to others it simply sounds like living an examined life. In his case, Michael found his answers in some very Eastern traditions. One of the overriding themes of his new spiritual direction is the ancient idea of non-duality, a spiritual and philosophical concept in which individuals transcend the superficial separation or dichotomy of the spirit and the mind, or the soul and the body. This tradition has roots in many different religions, including Hinduism, Islam, Taoism, Buddhism, and yes, even Christianity. His shift away from traditional Christian beliefs and into something more mystical also led he and Lisa to shut down the Gungor musical brand last year. He promised there would be new music and a new identity. Weiwu is the first manifestation of that promise. Michael has been so generous with his time and energy in the expression of his spiritual and philosophical thoughts that I would encourage you to listen to either his special episodes of the Liturgists or his own separate podcast called Loving This with Michael Gungor if you want to learn more. He's a thinker, a dreamer, a mystic, and a talker, and there's a lot out there for you to explore, critique, analyze, and experience. If you are someone who has left faith behind, you might find these conversations encouraging, interesting, or even inspiring. If you're a Christian who is confused or concerned about all this deconstruction stuff, there are few voices out there who are a better source of perspective and information about what it's all about. Our podcast is about listening to better music and listening to music better, because I have found that these practices have helped me in my own quest to be a better person in general. Michael Gungor, regardless of what you think of his philosophy, is one of the most provocative and interesting artists making music right now. And this Weiwu project is really on another level artistically. To call it experimental would be a bit of an understatement. The album, entitled Are You Perfect Yet?, is a densely produced, intricately arranged, and expertly performed, progressive, pulsing, and ambient effort to, as Michael explains, help the listener connect to their body more fully so that they can experience their true self through sound. This record is loaded with cascading images and word pictures, including ideas borrowed from a wide range of religious traditions. As it moves between dancing rhythms and meditations, the overarching message is that God sees you and you are good. Always the provocateur, these observations have caused Michael to be labeled a heretic all over again by many Christians, and a hero by many fellow spiritual refugees. We'll talk about that too. Michael and I have been friends for more than a decade, and whether I agree with him on all or any of his conclusions, that's never been a prerequisite for the music I appreciate, the friends I keep, or the conversations I have. I'm not at all afraid of having conversations like these with someone who is so passionately determined to seek the kingdom. Part of listening to music better is learning to listen, to feel, and to discern more deeply and mindfully. How's that for a disclaimer? Michael and I connected online. He from his home studio in Los Angeles, and I from mine in East Nashville. Our conversation went long, and instead of chopping valuable stuff, we're going to turn this one into our first two-part episode. A bit later, we'll crank up the True Tunes Jukebox too, and listen to a brand new EP from Starflyer 59. So, pour yourself some tea, make yourself comfortable, and let's get going. It might get strange in here. I want to start with hopefully a fun question here, but Shakespeare said, what is a name? And we'll start with Weiwu and Vishnu Das and all this obfuscation on terminology, all your names, identity crisis. You're not like Prince, who's saying, I'm not going to answer back unless you refer to me as an unpronounceable symbol. So who the heck are you? Like, how am I supposed to, I see the guy I've known for 10 years, but I don't so how are we supposed to address you here today, sir?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Each of the names, Vishnu, that was a spiritual name given to me by Ram Das. Vishnu Das was the name he gave me when I was at a retreat with him. They all function as kind of a different thing to me. Michael's my given name by my parents. That's what I have on my license, and I sign my credit cards receipts with. And that's what most people call me. I mean, well, that's not even true. My childhood's friends' parents still call me Mikey. My dad calls me Gil, which I don't even know where that's from. Some people call me Mike. Some people... Vishnu was a specifically like a spiritual thing, and there's some people in my world that still call me Vishnu or Vish or versions of it, because it was for a very specific purpose for me, which was I had a lot of baggage around, which I think most of us have baggage around our identities, around like who am I in the world, and there's like all these concepts that go along with it. And so as I was kind of like really digging into that, having a name without any baggage, but that was just about mystery and the moment and divinity and love, having that was a really beautiful gift, especially for a little bit there. It was like when anyone would call me that name, it would call me into the moment. It would call me into beyond the stories that I'm used to operating with. And Weiwu is an artist thing. It's an artist project almost. It's a specific endeavor that I'm making, and it's, if you put in Michael Gungor into Google, you're gonna have very different results, or in the algorithm on Spotify or whatever.
Right.
There's no results on Weiwu. Yeah, it's just like it doesn't. I think there's some obscure like martial arts.
So is it a term that you made up, or it's got some meaning to it too, right?
It's referring to a Taoist term that has meaning. I kind of messed it up purposefully to not be on the nose about the Taoist term. I mean, it's Weiwu Wei. The Taoist term is basically action without action, or in other words, like a flow state kind of thing, where we're acting in a way that's not so filtered through thinking, but more just being. But yeah, I'm not going to my friends and family and be like, now call me Weiwu. It's just a name.
And here's the thing, like a lot of artists, when they do something creative, when they do a musical project or film or whatever, they just kind of say, there's my work, deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to justify it. You, on the other hand, are so generous with your words. You've got multiple podcasts, you've got books, you've been outlining your transformation and your joyful deconstruction and all that. What I don't hear you talk as much about, and why I thought this would be, I've been looking forward to talking to you here, is music. So this identity of Weiwu, musically speaking, the flow, I would love to just start by saying, how does that concept of the flow fit into this first musical expression? What is the flow relative to you as a human being who is a musician? How is that all working together?
I'll try to keep it real musical, not get too in the philosophical weeds as I tend to do. So there's something, I remember having I was playing a Bach piece on one of the tours that we were doing as Gungor, and I'm not used to playing classical music in front of people. And especially the first few concerts, I just would really get in my head about it. And I was like really trying to focus and think about it. And like, okay, I know this part, here comes this section. And I just kept screwing it up like the first few concerts. And I knew it, I know this piece, but like my head would get in the way. I was like, oh my God, because there's something about classical music that's like, there's a correct next note. You know, like if I'm playing jazz, nobody can be like, well, you made a mistake. That's what it was supposed to be. But you can make a mistake if you play Bach. So that like sudden rigid box felt so limited. And so I had to switch. I had to learn how to not think. Because when I go back in the practice room and stuff, I noticed I wouldn't make those mistakes. I'm like, what's wrong? What's the difference? And I was trying to think about it while I was performing live. I couldn't get into the flow state of it like I was with the rest of the night with the music. And I had to learn how to stop thinking. It wasn't even learn, I just had to stop thinking, or not. It's like a lack of effort. When I got to that point of the concert, I just had to kind of not care. And then all of a sudden I was playing it perfectly, or, as perfectly as I can. And that's the flow state where you kind of just trust the body to do, when you're first learning a scale, you really have to think about it. You really have to put your finger on the 3rd fret and then the 5th fret, and then it's got to be clear, and you got to think about it, and like, what's next? Okay, let's move to. Eventually that becomes part of the body's knowledge, which you don't have to think about it then. It just becomes muscle memory. It becomes something the body knows how to do. This record I wanted to make from what my body knows how to do already. So I found that some records I've like really stretched myself technically, or like play the guitar part that really I'm gonna have to piece together and really like muscle it out. This one was all the entire performance of it was like, if I find myself trying at all, I stopped and deleted it, and just wanted the entire performance of it, whether I was playing an instrument or singing, to be from that kind of same space that I was in, playing that where I'm not thinking, not caring, not trying, just being this music.
Your level of skill is exceptional. Like, you're humming at a plane as an artist, as a technician on the guitar, as a composer. And for me, the fact that you're saying you had to be doing Bach songs at a Gungor show in order to get to the point where you felt that sense of high wire, tightrope. But when I listen to this stuff, I hear a level of intricacy and precision and discipline, hyper-disciplined, very almost avant-garde compositionally stuff that you could only do because you've trained yourself. I really also am interested in this idea of bringing the listener into their body more fully in order to more fully experience their true self through sound.
Well, helping somebody else, is partly theoretical because I can't feel other people's bodies. But I guess we did have, rather than like sending to AR people or A&R people or like people that knew music business or like, what do you think? What do we need? We need a single. Like, my check-in for the record was having a few dance parties with friends. And I would feel my own body and watch their bodies at certain moments of the record and be like, oh, I feel like that's how I would check in and be like, oh, there's kind of a lull in this part of the record. We need a little bit more. Everybody would stop kind of dancing at the energy would kind of wane more than I felt when I was just doing it myself. But the whole time I was really kind of feeling how it felt with my body from every decision. Like, as I was programming a drum loop or whatever, if it wasn't making me move with what that particular part of the record was intended to be, like whether that was, it's based on 5 rhythms. So there's flow, staccato, chaos, lyrical, stillness. And so depending on where we were at in that sort of wave, that arc of movement, I needed my body to be responding in that way. I need to feel flow or feel staccato in some way, the way I would move. So it was just through the whole process. Like, if it started veering from that, and there was decisions that I had to make even after the point where it was like I'd take out whole sections because it like deviated too much from that flow or whatever. Like, well, let's move that or delete it or whatever. So yeah, just staying present with my own body was how I tried to accomplish that.
And so even though you're talking about flow, and it's not necessarily just improvisation, there's a lot of discipline, and maybe the discipline is coming in terms of editing later, because there's lots of layers going on in this thing. I mean, it's not just you're making stuff up and then what you get is what you get.
Yeah, no, so the actual performance was when I wanted to be in a flow space. Editing, you are judging what was, and even while I was mixing it and while I was doing it, like, there had to be a time to go, okay, now it's editor glasses time. And as I listen to this, what does this need? What is this lacking? But then if I'd see, I think this needs some rhythmic support. That's a thought, that's a decision, that's an edit, like a judgmental thing. But then if I'm going to perform the hi-hat part, then I want to be in the space of just like, what's in here? What's feeling natural? What's in my body? What's flowing out? So it was the actual performance of the music as it went down that I'd speak of more as the flow state than necessarily like the editing process.
That's cool. And to me, that also speaks to this need for communication between the body and the mind, that we are a unified creature. We are not one or the other.
Yeah, a bunch of systems that work being this organism. Yeah.
This unification is where the magic is. And I can feel the emotion, but I can also sense the rational discipline. I can feel the trippiness, if you want to say that, but I can also sense all those hours of scales. I
literally just had a conversation with Lisa, my wife, about logic and like body knowledge or feelings, and how you really it depends on what you're trying to do, on what it's like. You can't really say what's better, a spoon or a saw, unless you say what you're trying to do. Like for eating cereal, a spoon is much better. For cutting a tree, a saw is much better. So if you have some intended purpose, you have all these ways of knowing, all these ways of being, and then being able to lean into, if the moment calls for some chops, my fingers are prepared. If that's what the flow dictates, because I've put some structure into that in the past. Yeah. And I think there's all sorts of interesting ways to talk about. I mean, like even in life, moral development and all that can apply to restraint and abstinence, and discipline is the way to go. And then there are times where like throwing all that out the window and letting the natural body do what it needs to do is the thing to do. And how you learn and develop and growth, that's part of the whole human journey.
There's also some really interesting kind of wizardry that you're doing. The day that it came out, I was listening in my car. It seemed strange to me that on Spotify, through Bluetooth, I was sensing that it sounded bigger. It sounded deeper somehow. And I kept wanting to turn it up, like I was just pulled into this thing, but feeling like it sounded more analog. But I'm going, this isn't analog. Even if he recorded it on 2-inch tape, I'm listening to it on Spotify in my car. So at some point it got turned into zeros and ones, and it's coming over Bluetooth. Like, this is, what did he do here? And then I got home from that exact moment, and I got to my computer and I put it on here, and I'm listening on my studio monitors. And I was like, oh my gosh. And my 15-year-old son walked in and he heard it and he was like, what is that? Like, wow. And he got pulled in. And then I looked on Facebook, and a mutual friend who plays in Toby Mac's band had posted, I think this is in 432. Oh, wow. And I was like, boom, that's what I bet you it is. And I texted you and you confirmed that it is. So tell me about that. That's the first question I have. So are you a believer in all of the conspiracy theories and all of that stuff? We'll talk a little bit about that because a lot of people probably don't know anything about it. But tell me about your decision for tuning everything to 432 megahertz.
Well, first of all, I was so impressed, and I'm so impressed that you could feel something different about it. It's a really subtle thing. I mean, what if you're not like a super nerd and don't know what we're talking about? Basically, you have to tune we call it A440 or A432 or A444. There's different. Right. It's tuning A to how many hertz or how many vibrations a second the waveform has. Most people, almost all the music you hear now is at 440, but that hasn't always been the case historically. Right. And a lot of people, there are conspiracy theories about it and what 440 has done to our collective psyche, and
there's some fun ones.
There are some fun ones. And so I first heard about it through that kind of thing, where people are like, have you heard? Like, I didn't believe it. I thought it was funny. I'm always a fan of hearing those kind of things. I think it's fun to listen to and talk through. But it really was when there was some website that had examples of the same piece at 440, 444 or 432, I think were the examples. And I felt like I felt a difference. I was like, it didn't make any sense to me. I was like, I feel a difference. Mm-hmm. And then I talked to another friend about it who's just sold on 432, and he's like, talked to me about what him starting to learn how to sing in 432 and play. It just felt like a different thing. And I was like, I don't know that I believe in any of this, but I could feel it. And then I had Lisa like quiz me blind with that same app or whatever to say like, can I actually feel this? And she plays one and I'll be like, that's 432. She's like, yep. It's like, well, how do I feel that? What am I feeling? So it really was more like I felt the difference, and it does feel more like sunken in or something. It's like I don't know how to put it other than it's like rounder, or
I thought it was really cool. And I've been a fan. Donald Lawrence, who's a gospel artist and composer and therapist, actually. He's a big believer. He's the one that told me about this a long time ago.
432. It feels good.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think
it must have been a pain in the butt, though. Like you probably had to tune all of your...
I had to retune the piano.
Oh my gosh.
And it was interesting, even like, I don't know, if like on a guitar, sometimes the little notch if a string is like used to being in tune right there, you can kind of feel that everywhere, like with your body, your voice. It's like I'm used to having to go a little higher for that F sharp than it just feels a little different.
Interesting.
Which is kind of part of the fun. That's kind of what I liked, and also helped put me more in a flow state. I feel like it was a little out of my element. Everything was a little different feeling, so I had to kind of like just go with it. And this is I first experienced that. One of the first really clear experiences I had with that musically was when I did my brother's record, and Wilderman, his first record was extremely kind of out there conceptually, and he really wanted us to be in that kind of flow state, and he was tuning to different frequencies and stuff, and he wanted me to be in tunings that I wasn't familiar with, and he had me play slide, which I've never had played slide before. So I'm playing in slide, and
which takes all the rules off
in some tuning that I don't know,
right?
And just going with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, here we go. And it puts you into a different space.
So another question, this one I might be way out to lunch on, but when I listened to it, it sounded like you were almost dabbling in some ASMR kind of tricks. For those, just in a nutshell, the ASMR is the way that certain sounds will actually impact your nervous system. And the most common examples you think of, like chills running down your spine or the hairs on the back of your neck going up, like that there's a physiological response to certain sounds. So when I heard that, like the way you whisper into the microphone really closely, or the little scratching sounds on some of it, that's an example of sound connecting to the body.
Right.
A neurological, physiological connection between ear and your back or whatever. Yeah. And just that connection between the body and the ears. Was that something you were thinking about as you were doing it, trying to connect that neurologically, or just with those kind of techniques, or was that just an accident that I'm reading into it?
Because it was intuitively, every sound was intended to like, how is this responding in my body? I think I was intuitively doing those things. I wasn't thinking of ASMR, but like if I whisper this line versus sing it versus speak it, I could just, it would elicit a totally different response and a totally different feeling. And all the lyrics of this record were very married to it. All the decisions were more about feeling in the body than about conceptual. Even like the concept was feelings in the body. So normally I might have like a sort of a story that I'm trying to tell through a record, or even in a lyric, like what's the most clever way of saying this one thing. This one wasn't so much focused on that as much as like, how does this lyric make my body respond, and how am I singing it or saying it or whispering it or shifting it up or down, like the timbre of how it's being said. What's it like, playing with the sound with the words is as much as of the meaning as the actual word. So yeah, a lot of the little, like those, I forget one of the speaking pieces where I'm whispering, it's also just the sound of those hammers on that piano back there moving before they touch notes. Like it was just like that sound.
Oh, that's what that was?
Start moving before they actually strike the string.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And that's I've always just liked when that sound, you can hear a little bit of it in a piano track. I like that sound. So I'm like, what about just that sound? It made me feel like just like kind of, it's like something's about, it's like anticipation, but kind of warm anticipation.
Feel the hum within your body. This the fruit of sun. No one here to act or use. No one but the one. Watch her close to taste her movement, rising like a mist. No more I to stop the rhythm. There is only this.
This idea of helping the listener be more present in their body through sound. When we're not present in our body, specifically again thinking about music, where are we? What is the alternative to that when it comes to music?
So I've got all sorts of philosophical ways of speaking about that. I'm glad you brought it back to music, though. Keep me on my toes here. One of the things that, like, if I have ever taught classes or lessons or whatever musically, one thing that I like telling people is, like, if you're practicing scales, sing it too. Don't just play it. To let it into your body, not just into your fingers, not just into your mind.
Oh, wow.
But like where you can feel a G major scale, where you, like, your body can feel it. You can hear it before you play it, and you can feel it before you play it. And so I think what it can look like, there's some, like, really shredders who can shred scales all day long, and but there's just something you can feel when a musician has embodied the music. I think I remember watching Terrence Clark, the guy who has played drums with us for, I don't know, over a decade now, I think. And I was watching him play with a friend of ours, Propaganda, in a set. I was in the back watching, and there was different drummers coming in for different reasons. I can't remember. And for some reason, Terrence, anytime I see Terrence or play with Terrence, I just feel this, like, when I feel him live. And it's like, what is it? He's playing in time. And I was watching the other drummers, and I'm like, this other drummer that was up there, I was like, and he was a white dude, and I was like, he's playing the right note. Like, he's playing in time. I think if you put it on a grid, I don't know what would be different. But boy, it felt different than when Terrence was playing. And I was watching, and then I was really paying attention, and I was watching Terrence, and I was like, oh, look at, like, when he's playing, his whole body is in sync. Like, it's not just the stick on the drum. Like, look at his shoulder. His shoulder is moving. Look at his facial expression. Look at his whole body is in one synchronous dance with this groove. And when I would see the other guy play, his arm was hitting the hi-hat at the right time, but his shoulder wasn't doing anything, you know? And so I don't know. It's kind of hard to articulate what embodied music is, but I think you can feel it. I think you can feel groove. I think you can feel just that when your face is going, what? It's just like nasty. It's like, what is it? It's when a whole body, it's almost sexual. It's almost sensuous. It's like the whole music is it's coming through the whole organism, not just like the fingertips.
It has long felt to me that part of my frustration or my feeling that there's a missed opportunity when it comes to what has formally been called Christian music in my lifetime has been that it feels like it's so much about ideas and propositions that if there was a continuum, the pendulum is leaning so much more towards the mind, the ideas, the agenda, and away from the body, the feeling, the sensation, the presence, the feet on the ground. That's why sometimes I've leaned more to gospel music.
Yeah.
At least it's embodied more in the place and the community, and it's much more connected to where it's coming from than a lot of contemporary Christian. And I think early contemporary Christian music was a little bit more connected to the people that it was in the place, but it's become much more disembodied, if you will. Yeah. And so as you are talking about helping people reconnect, I feel like there's a tradition of that's I feel like it's very orthodox. I think that actually this disembodied version of Christianity is what's very much a modern construct and very much unorthodox and unbiblical.
Yeah, I think, and with where we're at as a society, like, I think we're seeing some of what whiteness has done, which when we say that, I'm not talking about the color of someone's skin being light. I'm saying the concept of whiteness meaning now you're not French or Italian or Irish or British, you're white. Like this sort of, it's like a blanket thing that has happened where you kind of become the majority, the standard. And what that tends to do is disembody people. Whiteness really does like chop off the edges and chop off because it needs to fit the cookie cutter. It needs to fit the mold of the power system. That is, and this is, I think you can feel that in its effects in white spaces, but especially white religious spaces. I'll not name the name, but I was at a big white evangelical worship leaders concert, and there was the most cringy part of it by far to me was where they tried to do this like party part where like, let's dance.
Oh man.
And it was like so awkward because nobody knew what to do. We were in this setting where it's like we're supposed to be worshiping the Lord, and I was like, now we're supposed to dance and party. And everybody, like, the most they could like kind of bounce a little, lift a hand up, it's like
wow.
So awkward because this space was not an embodied space. This space, we're in this space in a way to get rid of the body. We're in the space to be better than the body. Our body wants to have sex and sense pleasure and go party or do whatever the body wants to do. We're in here because we're trying to transcend to the Lord and like the higher way of being.
Right.
And so that disconnect that we're all kind of there for, to be more holy, to be more righteous. Now we're trying to dance. And it's like, what are we supposed to do? We don't even know how to listen to our bodies. We don't even know, can I move my hips? Is that bad to move my hips? The Lord is okay with me like bouncing on my feet a little bit.
Where does the line?
Shoulders if you're a man, not if you're a woman. You don't want to shake too much. Right. It's just so ridiculous. But yeah, I think that disembodied music, I think you can feel it it's not just musically. I think it goes with the big power things, religion and race and all the different ways that society has controlled people.
Well, certainly culturally, you can see, like what you're saying, it cuts off the edges. You can see how all of the distinctions of those different culture groups that are now just called white, they've all kind of, unless you go to Oktoberfest or you go to some kind of special occasion, you've lost a lot of the distinctions of those different people groups. Even across America, you lose the different distinctions regionally. It just kind of homogenizes and becomes Cracker Barrel everywhere instead of distinct foods and whatever. But the idea here about this disembodiment that I think is really interesting, and your calling, your mission to help people re-embody it. As I see what's going on right now with this breakdown and decay that has been going on. It's not like we're seeing it go. It's obviously been going on for a long time, but now it's just that the lid is off and we can't hide it anymore. Do you feel that musicians, especially musicians with a certain spiritual calling, might have a special role in helping to re-embody theological, Christological, spiritual ideas back into the body? And might that help us regain some traction in terms of both empathy when it comes to the way we relate across cultural, racial divides, and in terms of action when it comes time to actually do stuff? Might we as simple musicians actually have a role to play in this moment like that?
Yeah, wow, that's yes, a resounding yes. I think that if white disembodied spaces hear that and are witnessing what's happening in our culture and witnessing what white supremacy has done, how the effects and insidious nature of how it's infected so much, I hope that the answer to that is not just, okay, well, let's sing a few more Israel Houghton songs in our service. Actually.
And we know he loves you and you're an Israel Houghton.
That wasn't meant to down
that's not
Israel
at all.
songs at all.
Right.
They're great. I just meant like putting on clothes, putting on the surface that you're going to address white supremacy by just like changing a few of your aesthetics. Right. As opposed to like maybe can you find some leadership of people that can help you find your own body? Like find a black woman that will. It's harder to be disembodied as an oppressed person when your body is on the line all the time. So sometimes we're going to have to find some people to lead the way for us and listen to other people and watch. Why do we have this division between Christian music and gospel music? It's white and black. It's just like,
how many times can we ask that question before people get the answer?
And like, let some people who know what they're doing, who actually are embodied and actually are embodying these Christological, theological, whatever things, that they know how to do it with music. Can we empower them? Can we give them resources and give them a stage and give them priority in our liturgical decisions and who people are signing, who people are like? It all goes together, and I just think the whole system as it's been is like white evangelical American Christianity needs some very thorough dismantling of some things in order to not be a harmful system in a lot of ways like it is. And it's harmful to black people and people of color, yes, but it's also making the white people that are part of it and leading it hurt as well. It's totally disconnecting them from their bodies. And I think music is kind of like a fruit of all of that. It's not, well, I don't think saying musicians are like, I'm not saying just like give everything to musicians, but they definitely, musicians that know how to do it already, musicians that are actually embodying the music, the kind of things that we're talking about already. Yes, they can be a powerful like leadership and invitation into some new ways of being and new ways of practicing, new ways of gathering, new ways of connecting.
Like I mentioned, instead of cutting valuable stuff, we're going to split this conversation into 2 episodes. You won't have to wait long for part 2, though. Just make sure to subscribe on whatever platform you use or to our email list at truetunes.com so you don't miss it. Next time, Michael reflects on the ideas behind the title of the album, Are You Perfect Yet? And we continue our discussion about how the disconnect between head, heart, and body may be contributing to the racial disharmony gripping the church. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.
We'll be right back after this. We're back with the True Tunes podcast.
Starflyer 59, the moody, vibey, droney band from Southern California that helped put Tooth and Nail Records on the map over 25 years ago, is back with a new EP, now on Velvet Blue Music, called Miami. Although it's never surprising to get solid music from Starflyer, for an EP this flawless to come so close on the heels of last year's excellent Young in My Head LP suggests that vocalist, songwriter, and guitarist Jason Martin is in some kind of zone. With Trey Many, formerly of Pedro the Lion, His Name is Alive, and Velour 100 on drums, and Steve Dale of Project 86 on bass, Martin offers up 5 songs that are melodically lavish, musically pitch perfect, and lyrically just right for this Corona moment. Although details are spare, Martin recently had some kind of surgery and spent significant time sentenced to a recliner for recovery. Having been through that exact experience a couple times in my life, I can personally relate, but it also feels like the claustrophobic melancholy captured by the lyrics and delivery, even as the vocals fight through the sunny, melodic song structures and textures, probably reflects how we all feel during these quarantine days. The opening track starts with an uncharacteristic acoustic guitar riff that takes me right back to Lovin' Rocket's 1987 hit, No New Tale to Tell, before careening off into its own groove.
I dropped you off at the halfway, 'cause you said you'd been doing too much. How can it go so low and so seedy? A dog would know it's enough.
This Recliner, which has been out for a few months as a single, leans into everything great about 80s alternative rock with shades of psychedelic furs and Peter Murphy swirling around unapologetically. CV2, with the epic and simple lyric hook, really captures the painful truth we see on display every day. Regardless of position or power, mortality and gravity maintain their sway in this world. Everyone can crash. Once More brings forward a classic rock riff or two, some fantastic attitude, and a sad prayer. Please, can I change once more?
Talk about the mess you made here, and I'm trying to have it all make sense. And the clock upon the wall keeps turning, like my head, it won't stop, it spins. I keep
And then bored. Well, it might just hit a little too close to home for those of us of a certain age.
Is the coast so clear? Well, it's not to me. Is my life so dear? Well, it is to me. 'Cause my thoughts are feeling cold. Could it be because I'm old? Or could it be that I am bored? Somehow I never saw the writing on the wall.
Starflyer 59 has often preferred to trade in something more like impressionism and musical swagger, so maybe the more pointed lyrical direction of Miami is a coincidence of timing. Maybe Martin's forced recuperation has nothing to do with quarantines and viruses, but if it's not, it's one of the most fortunate accidents of the year. I'm going to hold off on the soapbox this time and wait until we wrap up the conversation with Michael Gungor. For now, I want to thank him again for taking time to be with us, and I want to thank you for listening. This idea of reconnecting or reintegrating ourselves may have philosophical roots that some of you find unsettling, but I think we can all agree that the kind of disembodied, disconnected lives we have often been living and the faith, or sometimes faithlessness, we have been experiencing has been contributing to a lot of disconnected art, hasn't it? When Jesus gave us the image of one body with many parts, he didn't mean for those parts to function independently of one another. The idea of integration is so important, and whether you're a musician or just a fan and supporter of the arts, we all have a role to play in this process. I hope you'll join us for part 2, coming very soon. That's just about it for this first part of our conversation with Michael Gungor. We will be back with part 2 very soon, along with an in-depth look at the new album by Bob Dylan and a blast from the past when we spin a 1983 classic by the band Daniel Amos on the Jukebox. All this talk about disconnection and duality reminded me of one of my favorite records, certainly an album that inspired me to listen to music in a new way when I was just a teen. So we will talk about Doppelganger next time as well. I want to thank my producer, Bruce A. Brown, as always, for cutting the show together, making it sound so good. And of course, a big thanks to Michael Gungor for taking so much time with us today, and all of the artists who provided so much music for this episode. The contents of the podcast are protected by U.S. copyright law and are the intellectual property of Gyroscope Productions, with the exception of songs or clips that are from previously copywritten materials. Everything on this episode is used by permission or under fair use provisions. This program is intended for the private use of our listening audience. Gyroscope Productions can be reached at truetunesmusic@gmail.com or P.O. Box 60401, Nashville, Tennessee 37206. Until next time, this is JJT saying stay tuned and stay true.